Merci.
Thank you and good afternoon. I am René Moreau. I'm the new CEO of AgroPure. I'm much proud and honored. It's a big challenge for me to chair AgroPure, the biggest dairy cooperative in Canada. I'm pleased to introduce Mrs. Zenia Tata, the CEO of XPRIZE. Whether in Asia, Central America, or elsewhere, her work has had a positive impact in many countries where there are challenges such as lack of water and food, economic development, climate change, territorial rights, healthcare, education, and children welfare. Her contribution was determinant because she introduced an entrepreneurial approach to development which profits to everyone. Mrs. Tata is passionate about her work with underprivileged populations. She is constantly searching for innovative solutions to the world's issues. She is here today to encourage you to adopt an innovative mentality towards food. Please join me to welcome Mrs. Zenia Tata.
Thank you. So what happened? Did he say good things about me? Because I have no idea. Did he? Yes? Good. No? Did somebody say no? Okay. Get me with me later. Tell me what happened. All right. Well, how is everybody? It's been an amazing day so far, right? Good? Yeah. Energetic? Yeah. Good. Because I'm going to wake you up if you're not awake. So, because I don't know what he said, let me tell you a couple of things about my special connection with agriculture, which is quite non-traditional, actually. I spent many years working in international development and in the agriculture sector, mostly with water and energy for smallholder farmers, micro-entrepreneurs, people who for generations had never earned a living. They had worked a subsistence lifestyle. They had a little plot of land somewhere in an African nation or in an Asian country, and they were trying to eke out not even a living, just a life from that. And my organization used to go in and teach them how to be entrepreneurs and build agricultural value chains in these countries. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm here to talk about something very different. I'm here to talk about innovation. Innovation is kind of a stale word, right? I mean, how many times do you hear it every day? It kind of gets stale after a while. Let me tell you about the kind of innovation I want to talk about and want you to think about today. It's what we call moonshots. Do you know what a moonshot is? Something really audacious, something that you try to achieve that is way out there, that is almost ridiculous and has big impact for the world. And I believe that agriculture is ready for a moonshot. And I'm here to tell you why, and I'm here to teach you how you can take that moonshot. Whether it's in your own company, whether it's in your community, whether it's among your friends starting a new venture, whatever that might be. So I work for an amazing organization. My organization is called XPRIZE. And we believe in radical breakthroughs for the benefit of humanity. We have a fairly simple premise, and I'll come to that in a second. But what I want to start by saying is that we believe at XPRIZE that we live in amazing times, unprecedented times. And I'm sure, again, I see so many young faces here. You're sick and tired of hearing that, right? Everybody telling you, oh my God, you live in an amazing time. Let me tell you, it's true. I want you to think about something for a second. 100 years ago, you had to be a king or a queen or a governor of a province or a really rich robber baron and industrialist to really make a difference in the world. But that's not the case anymore. You don't need that kind of wealth anymore. You don't need that kind of power anymore to truly change the world. No. Anyone can do it today, right? Most people can. And why? Because they're empowered with technology. At XPRIZE, we believe in the power of technology. And not just any old technology, but what we call exponential technology. Look at the supercomputer that you're all carrying around in your pocket today. That was a supercomputer about not even 20 years ago. In 1999, the kind of data that you have on your smartphone was actually lifted up by cranes and carried across the country in planes. But that isn't the case anymore. We're all empowered with the supercomputer in our pockets that allow us to make a huge difference in the world. And I'm going to tell you how. So at XPRIZE, we have a very simple premise. We believe that for ordinary people, people like you and I, to really make a difference in the world, we're not going to do it on the weekend. We're not going to do it after we work our 60-hour-a-week jobs. We're just not. We're not going to do it after school. No, we need to incentivize people to work on world-changing ideas, game-changing ideas. We also believe that there are only 3 things that truly motivate us humans. Do you know what those are? One of them, money. Why? Because without it, nothing gets done. Number 2, if you're an inventor or an innovator or an entrepreneur, the second most exciting thing is for you to be the first in a new industry. When you put that name in Google, your name comes up first. That's a huge incentive for a lot of entrepreneurs, right? And the third, the biggest reason, the biggest incentive that our teams tell us all the time why they want to work on game-changing ideas is because they truly want to change the world. As human beings, we have altruistic souls. It's how we're built. It's how we're conditioned. Books have been written about this stuff, that we as humans are at our happiest and our best when we are doing something that changes or touches the life of somebody else, even if we don't know who that person is. That's when we're happiest. That's when we're best. So at XPRIZE, we shamelessly tap into all of this, and we design big global competitions. And we give out prizes for breakthrough innovations, for real moonshots. We design these competitions. We announce it to the world, to innovators everywhere, because we believe that, again, ordinary folks like you and I are the ones who have the answers. You don't always need experts. So that's what we do at XPRIZE. We were best known for our first prize. It was a prize that opened up the private spaceflight industry. Till then, space was something only governments could access. And our first $10 million prize opened up a whole new industry in suborbital spaceflight with many, many new private sector players today. Some of the names you may have heard, like SpaceX, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin, and Richard Branson, Virgin Galactic, and many, many others. But today, more than anything else, I want to talk about revolution. Nothing short of revolution, because that is really what sparks us. That is really what we need. And agriculture has gone through many revolutions, right? I mean, think about it. There was the agrarian age, right? How many years did that last? Do you all know? Started in 4000 BC and ended in the 1700s. Really long, big chunk of human history. And that's when we started settling as human beings, and we started taking the land, and we started to learn how to grow and feed our crops and feed ourselves, and that's how civilization began, right? So agriculture is really sort of one of those building blocks of civilization. And then, of course, agriculture was transformed in the 1800s by the Industrial Revolution, by factories, by industry, by the ability to organize and produce at scale. And then, of course, it was touched again by the scientific revolution of the 1900s. I was just hearing about the story of canola. That was because of that scientific revolution in the 1900s, in our last century, right? But today's revolution, we are in the middle of a fourth revolution that I would say is much more powerful than any of these revolutions that have gone before. Much more powerful. What is the revolution? Can you tell me? It's the digital revolution, right? It's the revolution of information, access to knowledge and information for all. What do revolutions do? Stirs up people. It's an equalizer, gives equal access to people. And that's what the revolution we are in today is doing. And you know, when you're in the middle of a revolution, you may not kind of feel every day like it's any big deal. But let me tell you, what we are going through on our planet right now is an absolute game changer. Let me give you a couple of examples. So by the year 2003, all of humanity, all of history, all of humanity had generated about 5 exabytes of data. That's about 5 billion gigabytes of data. That's a lot of data. 5 exabytes of data, all of humanity. By the year 2010, do you know how long it took us in the year 2010 to generate that much data? Any guesses? 10 days. 10 days. You know how long it's going to take us this year? 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, that is the amount of data that is generated by our planet, by human beings. Oh, and by the way, half of our planet is not even online yet. Imagine when the other half of our planet comes online. Over 3 billion people are going to have access to the internet in the next 5 to 8 years. Imagine what ideas dwell out there. Imagine all the entrepreneurs, all the artists, all the crazy people with all their weird, crazy ideas and all their opinions. Imagine what's going to happen to our lives then. And that's the revolution that we're all part of. And that is the revolution that agriculture needs to step into. It is already, to some extent, but it's still for the elite in agriculture, for big ag, for big industry. But that's not going to be the case for too much longer. So before I will talk about moonshots and how do you take this step, how do you take a moonshot, I want to just get a little philosophical for a second. Do you know why we eat food? Why do we eat food? Energy? Yeah, to give us energy, right? How does energy get into food? Sun, from the sun, photosynthesis from the sun, correct? At the molecular level, what is in our food that gives us that energy? Hydrogen and helium. Do you know what the sun is made up of? 70% hydrogen, 28% helium. Where did the sun get its hydrogen and helium? 13.8 billion years ago at the Big Bang. 13.8 billion years ago when our universe was born. In the first nascent nanoseconds of our universe, the first elements ever created, hydrogen, helium. That's what's fueling us, guys. That's what's in our bodies. That's why food is so important. We're actually eating and living and breathing star stuff. This is what we are absolutely made of. So again, think about what you're eating. Think about where it comes from. You've heard that a million times, I know. And of course, everybody wants you to think about the farmers and how they've grown it and the sweat and tears that it's taken to do that and the risk that it takes. Absolutely, yes. But I want you to go next time even further beyond those kinds of thoughts. What you're eating is essential for life in our universe. It's what makes you and I the same. So because of the importance of all of this, I truly, truly believe that agriculture needs a moonshot. But again, we know there's a lot of trends. There's a lot of downsides too, right? And we can explore some mega trends as we kind of talk about how we're going to feed the world. So I grew up in Mumbai, India. Never seen a farm till I was probably, almost 30, late 20s. Grew up in a megapolis, 20 million people, absolute city girl. And I was always in love with science fiction. I love to read, but science fiction has always been my favorite genre. And I really believed that while I was growing up, that by the time I grew up, the world would be a very, very different place. But it's not quite so. I mean, I really thought that by now we'd be living in these amazing cities that are completely harmonized with nature. So, I mean, sustainability wouldn't even be a word. It would just be sort of a way of life, But that's not quite the case. What you're seeing here on the screen is rainforests being depleted at an amazing, amazing rate every single day. A lot of it because of our need for food, our need for agriculture. And I always thought that by the time I grew up, this is where my meat would come from. It would come in a lab. It would be grown somewhere. No animals getting slaughtered and no diseases being propagated. Now I know that Canada is #1 in food safety. But we're in Canada, guys. I'm usually not in Canada. I won't name the countries, but I'm in a lot of other countries working there, and food safety is really not quite on the agenda. And our animal industry is the worst in propagating, in other countries, the worst in propagating some of the diseases on our planet that humans suffer from. Also, you go into the supermarket, you see these amazing bounty of food, but what you don't see is in the back. 1.3 billion tons of food every year being wasted. 30% of food on our planet goes to waste. What is wrong with this picture? This industry is fraught with dichotomy. What about obesity? You know how many people are obese, according to World Health Organization, on our planet today? 2 million people obese. 2 million overfed, obese. Do you know how many are undernourished, according to the same source? 2 billion people undernourished. What's wrong with us? Our planet is not in balance, right? And 2.6 million children every year across the world dying due to lack of nourishment in some form or the other. So the world I thought that I would grow up in would look like this: harmonized with nature, beautiful cities, we'd be growing our own food, be extremely sustainable. But yet, my hometown, Mumbai, it still looks like this. Why? This is how most of the world lives. So even when we talk about agriculture and farmlands, I can't picture that because this is where I come from. And most of the places in the world I work look like this. There is no room anymore. Farmland is way somewhere else. And that is why, of course, so many countries have to rely on places like Canada to import their food from. And then there's climate change. Whether you believe, whatever the causes are of climate change, whatever it is, you may believe that it's our natural evolution of our planet, enough scientific evidence for that. And you may believe that it is human caused. Yep, there's some data for that too. Whatever the reason is, it is real, it is here to stay. And all of you young folks here, this is the future. You're going to grow up in a planet that did look different from your parents. Climate change is here and has massive, massive impacts on agriculture. So all of these trends, this dichotomy, begs the question, how are we going to nourish 9.6 billion people by 2050. That's how many people we're going to have on our planet. And feeding them isn't an issue. We figured that out. We know how to feed them with cereal crops. We know how to feed them with corn and soy and wheat. But what we don't know how to do is we don't know how to nourish them. That's not what our bodies need. Our bodies need more than that. So we're going to have to fortify that food with all the amino acids. Those are the protein builders for our diet. We're going to have to fortify it with all the micronutrients, in order to truly nourish the planet. So those are the big kind of questions that we grapple with at XPRIZE. How are we going to nourish so many people? And again, that is why we believe that agriculture is ripe for a moonshot, that it really needs something different, something big. And not just big ag. In fact, I will venture to say that big agriculture they are the ones who are already on the cutting edge. They're already looking into so much of what I'm going to talk about today. Everybody needs to be thinking in some ways like they do. How do you take a moonshot? I'm going to teach you the 5 easy steps to take a moonshot. So the first thing that you do is you have to shift your mindset from thinking local and thinking linear to thinking exponentially and globally. Let me explain what I mean. You guys have heard the word exponential? I'm going to use it a lot, warning. Let me explain. Let me tell you what exponential feels like. So you know what linear feels like, okay? Linear is, what happens if I take 30 linear steps right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get the picture. Where am I going to be in 30 steps? Where do you think I'll be? Probably at the end of the room, almost to the end of the room here, right? Now let me tell you what exponential feels like. Exponential is a doubling, right? So 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. You get the picture, right? So if I take 30 linear steps, I will be at the end of the room. What happens when I take 30 exponential steps? Do you know where I'd be? Kind of? Anyone? You have to shout it out. Toronto. The moon. Yeah. Actually, who said the moon? With 30 exponential steps, I'm going to be 25 times across the planet. 25 times around planet Earth is what 30 exponential steps will get me. So again, when I start talking about exponential technologies, it means I'm talking about technologies that are doubling every year in their speed and their processing power, while at the same time halving in their cost. They're getting cheaper, and yet they're getting more powerful. Look at your smartphones. That's exactly what happened to smartphones, right? So we need to shift our thinking from local and linear to global and exponential. But as human beings, we're not programmed to do that naturally. We really have to push ourselves. And that is why this is important to know when you're taking a moonshot. So, do you know how old this particular incarnation of the human body is in terms of evolution? We've had this exact body with no evolutionary changes for 50,000 years. 50,000 years. We have not had a systems upgrade in 50,000 years. Okay? So our brains are programmed that when I see a line, I go stick, straight line. When I see a curvy line, my brain goes snake, danger. We are programmed biologically to still think like we thought 50,000 years ago. But that's not who we are anymore. Look at the world we live in. We live in these exponential times. We live in times of huge amounts of information, of absolute globalization, right? So we need to push our brains, our primitive 50,000-year-old brains, we need to push ourselves to really take moonshots, to take those risks, and to think in a completely different way. I call it the age of quantum entanglements. In physics, what is a quantum entanglement? Basically, a quantum entanglement is this, that one particle, no matter where it is in the universe, if it behaves a certain way, immediately a corresponding other particle, no matter how far it is in space-time, will also behave that same way. Immediately, there will be a reaction from its coupled particle. But that's our world today, right? Who believes that if there is not a huge tsunami somewhere in Asia, or if there is not a massive flood somewhere in North America, that it doesn't impact everybody on this planet? We live in an age where we are so globalized, our economies are so globalized, that we're completely entangled in many ways. And so we really have to adopt what we call at XPRIZE a mindset of abundance. What is the opposite of abundance? Scarcity, right? What is adopting a mindset of abundance? Basically, we see problems like the ones I described earlier, flash through, the things that everybody in this room already knows. Well, we see those problems as opportunities, as business opportunities, as innovation and invention opportunities, as game-changing, behavior-changing opportunities. That is what it takes to take a moonshot. You've got to look at things completely differently. Are we optimists? Hell yeah, we are optimists. Are we idealists? No, not quite. Although sometimes we have to push the edge of idealism in order to really take a moonshot, because otherwise you'd be too scared to do that. So that was the first thing that we do, really trying to kind of change our mindset. The second thing we do when we try to take a moonshot, or at XPRIZE when we design these audacious challenges, is we harness the power of technology. Not any old technology, but like I talked about, exponential technology. Here are some examples of exponential tech. Artificial intelligence, 3D printing, robotics, VR, AR, quantum computing, synthetic biology, machine learning. All of these have a place in the future of agriculture. I'm not going to go through everyone, but I would like to talk about a couple controversial ones, if you don't mind. Because again, when you have a mindset of abundance, you don't see things in black and white. You don't see things in good and bad. You don't see things flat. You see them nuanced, and you see the role that human beings play in it. I'll explain a little further. So let's take synthetic biology for a second. I want to talk about synthetic biology, and I want to talk about gene editing. Both of these, synthetic biology is very simple. It's programming of DNA. How do you program and create DNA? Taking DNA from one particular life form and from another particular life form and seeing what happens. It is bioengineering at its absolute best. This is one of the most transformational and growing fields in the world today. For agriculture, for medicine, for all kinds of things for the future of humanity, including things like desalinating water. Don't frown on it. Know the facts. Learn about it. Make an educated decision. We're not propagating one thing or another when we do our XPRIZes. We call ourselves solution agnostic. We're open to every single way something can get done, because we believe humans will control that. Remember the whole big controversy? Everybody talks about AI taking over the world. Could that happen? Yeah, it could. Is it up to us human beings to put some things in place so that it doesn't? Yeah, absolutely, right? Gene editing, CRISPR-Cas9, revolutionary technology from a couple of years ago. The ability to cut and paste genetic material, genetic code. This could really change the game for a lot of people. Could it also obliterate species? Could it really take the world in a very different direction? Yeah, absolutely. Learn the facts, though. Learn the facts, put responsible human beings in charge of this, and make informed decisions. That's what we're about at XPRIZE. So, okay, so let's talk about exponentials for a second. I just very roughly, crudely divided up your world of agriculture into on-farm, on the way to consumers, and then consumers. So on-farm, right? You can easily see how exponential technologies work, all the way from intelligent and network sensors to sense moisture in soil, farm bots, they're automatically connected to farm bots. By the way, what Minister Macaulay just said about the cows texting, do you think that's absurd? Who thinks that's absurd? Come on. Who thinks that's absurd? Let's see a show of hands. Okay, good. I love when people take a stand, especially women, girls, yay. Okay, you know what? It's not. It's actually not absurd at all. Who's learning code? Anybody here studying code? Okay. You could program a sensor that reacts when, I don't know what a fresh cow means, but I presume it's some kind of a biohormonal reaction, right? I mean, it's a biological reaction. You could program a sensor that picks up on that biomarker, that picks up on that data. Maybe the body temperature goes up, certain kinds of chemicals in the bloodstream go up. You could build a sensor that picks up on that data, that has a nanotransmitter, and through Bluetooth technology transmits a message, sends a signal to your smartphone, the farmer's smartphone, to say, hey, Bessie's ready, or whatever it might be. It can happen. You can do it today. You can do it today. This is what I mean. Nothing is so far-fetched anymore. And all of this is happening. And if it's not happening now, you bet it's going to happen tomorrow, because there are some brilliant minds who probably have never even been on a farm, but who are working on technology that will create breakthroughs on the farm. The stuff I'm really excited about is way up in the sky, in suborbital space, the satellite technology. So our founder, Peter, he founded another company to mine asteroids. So we're going to be mining asteroids fairly soon. Asteroids, as they pass kind of sort of close to Earth, they have an amazing amount of what we would call rare earths or minerals. And so each asteroid, the market value of an asteroid could be in the trillions of dollars. And so they're going to capture an asteroid and they're going to mine it. And so they've been putting up satellites in suborbital space. They found an asteroid. They've been tracking that asteroid. It's going to come close to Earth around 2023. But what do you do till then? You're just sitting up there twiddling your thumbs, right? But they realized the way that they were seeking asteroids and studying, because the asteroids are usually chunks of ice. They're covered with ice. So they had to have LiDAR that goes through the ice that figures out what is that asteroid actually made of? What is the content of that asteroid? And they realized that, wait a minute, if we just turn these LiDARs towards Earth, here's what happens. We can figure out moisture content under the soil, in the soil. Oh, wait a minute, we could even tell you the height of your wheat crop way in the middle of your field to absolute precision. So there's a lot of exciting technology that is being developed, again, not for farming, in space, for mining, for other things that can also be used for agriculture and moving agriculture forward. And hopefully, then there's going to be different ways that we grow stuff too, right? Everyone's heard of Modern Meadow, so many other companies that are now starting to grow meat in a lab. 45% of all available land, 45%, is used for cattle. That's just the reality of how things are today on our planet. Well, maybe our cattle farmers, our cowboys, are going to look very different in the near future. And when we run out of land, remember, what is the problem here? 9.6 billion people to be nourished. Maybe there are other ways, other places that we're not quite looking at that we can grow and food in. We can have micro farms in there. And of course, urban farming. Everyone loves to talk about urban farming, vertical farming, urban farming, etc. But with new discoveries in photonics, the study of light. New spectra of light is emerging that shows that pink light is actually really good for growing crops. Suddenly, you don't need sunlight all the time. You can grow crops 24 hours a day using affordable LEDs and pink light. So let's talk for a second about the next step. Once food is grown on the farm, now it's shipped off somewhere, right? Again, exponential technology is already at work. GPS tracking, sensors to detect spoilage of food, right? Also, there are some amazing organizations. If you look, I think Wired magazine did an article on this about the 10 startups in the world that are working on packaging, innovative packaging. So like there's one where it's rice, or noodles, and it comes in like a crinkly kind of a papery substance. You put the whole thing in the microwave, and part of that packaging, completely biodegradable, becomes the bowl. Part of the packaging becomes the water that the rice or the noodles get cooked in. So there's a lot of amazing breakthroughs happening through synthetic biology in creating new packaging for food. And then what about consumers and eaters? They're the most important today. And you know why consumers and eaters are more important than ever before? We've all been consuming food on our planet forever. Why is it today everyone's suddenly talking about consumers and eaters? Because we are empowered with what? With that supercomputer in our pocket, our smartphones. We're all tweeting about what we love to eat. We're all irate and angry at somebody for doing something that we didn't like. And all of our friends are joining in, either to celebrate or to demonize, right? Eaters control everything today. Imagine a next generation of eaters that are empowered with real data, information. Oh, I heard a lot today about stories. The importance of telling stories in the field of agriculture, that there are these amazing stories that nobody is telling. Well, I'll tell you, the next generation, all of you, what do you respond to? You respond to stories, whether it's in a tweet or two, or whether it's in VR or AR in the future. We all as human beings respond to stories. Imagine telling better stories. Imagine giving a city girl like myself, when I was young, growing up in Mumbai, the ability to put on a headset and feel what it was like to be on a farm. Through advances in VR and AR, through haptics, to be able to feel, to be able to smell, to be able to feel a breeze, to be able to sense what it is like to actually be on a farm. This is how we're going to educate the new set of eaters, the next generation of eaters. And we're going to use exponentials to do it. We're going to have our fridges, our refrigerators sending us text messages saying that your lettuce is going to spoil in 32 hours, so you better have salad tonight. This is the Internet of Things, IoT. It's here, guys. It exists. It's only a matter of time where you're just going to be like, yep, that's what we're having tonight. Why? Because my refrigerator told me so. It's only a matter of time. So the next generation of farmers may actually look like these lovely ladies here, right? Want to work on a farm? Study biology. Want to be a farmer? Study robotics. Today, technology is everything. It's the world we've created, and it's the world we live in. And so this, to me, is the hope for a whole new generation of farmers. Obviously, we will have the old farmers too. But it's the combination, knowledge, information, that is the revolution that we are in today. And that is the revolution that we've got to acknowledge. There are a couple of futuristic trends in food that I hope, personally, never come to fruition. One of them is this. You know the whole food in a pill thing? You just kind of take a pill and you get everything you need, and somehow that pill has some chemical in it that tricks your brain into absolute satiation. No, thank you. I mean, imagine the wonderful ritual of food that will just completely go away, right? So this is one of the futuristic trends I'm not in favor of. Another one is this one. Have you guys seen the YouTube videos of the robots cooking in the kitchen? You look it up. It's kind of creepy. I don't think it's very cool. I love to cook, and I don't want a robot cooking my food. Of course, the worst part, if you see in one of the videos, I think it's a Japanese robot that's cooking, and then of course the robot cooks but doesn't clean. So the robot leaves the kitchen in an absolute mess. So for those of you who are like me, you still need your husband to do the cleaning, even if the robot is cooking. So that's the rule in my house. I cook, he cleans. Anyway, so these are a couple of the future trends that I hope we don't see. The third thing that you can do to take a real moonshot is start transforming science fiction into science reality. We do this every day at XPRIZE. We look at science fiction. We all love Star Trek. I mean, we're kind of geeks there. We've got over 100 people. We have Star Trek uniforms, so when you come, you can wear a Star Trek shirt and get your picture taken with Spock, and it's kind of creepy. But anyway, so we're real techno geeks there, and we're real sci-fi geeks at XPRIZE. We have a lot of fun at work. We have robots roaming around and 3D printers, and we use all of it. And mostly our staff comprises of scientists and engineers who never grow up. But we look at this every day. We get influenced by Star Trek. We get influenced by other science fiction, and we go, wait a minute, how can we do this today? You know, it doesn't sound far-fetched. In fact, if it does, that's all the better for us. Let's try and figure it out. Really? You want your cow to text you? Well, there's a way that can be done. And I bet you anything, somebody's going to make $1 billion doing it. So it might as well be you, right? So that is coming. It's going to happen. Anyway, so transforming science fiction into science reality. This is one of my favorite sci-fi movies. It's called Sunshine. Little indie independent film. Anyway, this is, you see this in sci-fi films, right? These oxygen farms on spaceships. Doesn't look very different from what our vertical farms look like today, from a lot of what our urban farms look like today, correct? These kind of oxygen farms where we will grow our own food in our own little micro environments. This is what is going to get us to Mars. This is what it's going to take to get us to the moon, right? If we are going to get off planet, we need this. And yeah, that might sound a little absurd to some of you here, but I say it with absolute sincerity. As a human species, we are not destined to just be on this planet. We're not. We are explorers. We have the soul of explorers. We're going to find and push new frontiers every chance we get. That is our true religion in that sense. That is something we're just programmed to do. But we can't go without food. And so science fiction teaches us a lot about how we're going to grow our own food and how we will need to grow our own food to survive. So learn from science fiction. And of course, another grand teacher for us is nature itself. You know how old our planet is? 4.5 billion years old. Think about it. We have been doing rapid prototyping on our planet for 4.5 billion years. Maybe nature has something to teach us. So when we design moonshots, we're very big on biomimicry, trying to see how nature sorts out this problem itself, and then learning from nature. Many examples in the growing space right now. This is an experiment that a startup is doing, looking at how a jellyfish is structured. Jellyfish, they live off photosynthesis. They live off the sun, so they've got to have surface to capture that sunlight, and then they have tentacles that also feed on the little microorganisms in the water. So this is a whole growing system that is modeled after a jellyfish. If anyone's been to Singapore, you've seen the super trees in the botanic gardens there. The super trees are, again, modeled after nature's natural structures, like giant forests, giant redwood forests, ancient forests, where every layer from deep down inside the earth, every layer of the tree, all the way up to the canopy, has a different ecosystem for growing. Maybe that's what we need to do for vertical farming, instead of these glass houses that you see everywhere. And lastly, we have to put people in the center of change. I want you to think about why that is. We've been talking so much about perceptions, about stories, about everybody who has access to a smartphone giving their opinion on things. When you design a moonshot, you have to think about how people will accept this. Why, again? Because we human beings, our brains are still 50,000 years old. No upgrade. We need that boot. We need to be rebooted a little bit, right? So you're still programming for people who have superstition, fears, aversion to risk. That is just who we are as a human race as well. So again, when you're creating moonshots, when you're designing something new, when all of you micro-entrepreneurs of the future sitting here in front of me are thinking about your own moonshot in the world, remember, if it is not accepted by people, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. So find that sweet spot between technology and human acceptance. That is the best place to have a successful, quick moonshot. And who are these people? When we talk about agriculture and farming and the 9.6 billion people, we're not talking about you and I, right? We're talking about a very different face that these people have. 70% of all food grown on the African continent is grown by her. It's women like her who are growing that food. Africa and Asia are going to be the biggest population centers by 2050. These are the people we're designing for. These are the people we're designing with. The dairy industry in India, #1 growing dairy industry in the world, is not in Canada. It's in India. And a lot of the dairy farmers there, again, look like her. They're women. These are the folks who are going to be adopting your technologies. These are the people who we are going to have to nourish in the next 30, 35 years. And we are going here. We're going to Mars. Whether you believe it or not, it's going to happen. We're going to go here. But we can't go here and thrive without understanding how to take our food systems with us. We're going to need to grow food. We're going to need to farm our own water to know how to survive in these hostile environments. But before we go all the way out there, let's take a little more care of what we already have in our hands, right? Our own earth here. So I want to end with one thought. This is a quote from our founder, Peter Diamandis. And we say this all the time at XPRIZE. The day before something is a breakthrough, it's still a crazy idea. Stop and think about that. The day before something is a breakthrough, it's still a crazy idea. People will tell you all the time, that's crazy, that's nuts, yeah, whatever. You roll their eyes, yep, that's so sci-fi. Yeah, it sounds cool, but really it can't be done. And then it happens, and the world has changed. It happens right there, in one moment. And all the critics are silent. The world goes on. And that crazy idea is now tomorrow's breakthrough. So that's what we tell people. Bring us your crazy ideas. Push the boundaries of your own craziness. Because those crazy ideas that are in the back of your head, that are in your staff meetings, in your labs, right? All those crazy ideas are tomorrow's breakthroughs. Don't dismiss them. So again, thank you very much. It's been nice to be here. Thank you for being so patient and listening to me. And you can always reach me on Twitter or at XPRIZE. Thank you so much.